we are seeing the Russians slowly getting closer to Kiev. That convoy that we saw heading its way towards the capital is now dispersed.
So what we've seen developing over the last 10 days are Russian forces closing in on Kiev from the northwest and the northeast. Those forces are getting closer. They're moving off the roads into battle positions, and they're beginning to try to encircle the city.
And if we take a look now at a closer picture of the capital, worth saying this isn't going to be straightforward, is it? Because coming into an urban area is always difficult with fighting, particularly somewhere as big as Kiev.
So we need to understand this is a really big fight. This is a much bigger scale of challenge for the Russians than they've taken on so far. What we'd expect to see is that Russian forces approaching the city on a number of axes, and as they do that, their armoured forces will lead, so tanks in the front, and the Ukrainians will resist that. As they approach the edge of the city, the infantry will take charge, and the tanks will follow, and it'll all be supported by massed and very destructive artillery. The Ukrainians are ready for that, and the resistance will be very stiff. So breaking into Kiev is going to be a massively difficult fight. And this is where the spectre of chemical weapons appears to be raised by Russia, because if the Russian assault stumbles or is stalled by the Ukrainians, one way they may elect to unstick that is by using chemical weapons against the city, with all the abhorrent effects that will have.
OK, and we've seen some developments northwest of Kiev, at Berestyano, where I'm circling now. I think we can show you some satellite pictures from there, which we think show rocket launches, and that obviously potentially is very concerning, because this is a place that is only 35 or so kilometres away from the capital. So
this is a very good illustration of the Russian forces coming off the road and deploying into battle positions. That looks like a battery of 6 rocket launchers in positions where they could fire, and they are now in range of Kiev.
What do you think we should be looking at in particular when it comes to the south of the country?
So a lot of focus on Kiev, rightly so, right now, but there are at least 4 other things we need to look at. The first is the battle for Mariupol, because if the Russians take that city, they will complete the land bridge from Russia to Crimea, which has clearly been one of their main objectives. And over the last 24 hours, we've seen the first strikes on Dnipro. That suggests the Russians are inclined to move further into Ukraine and maybe close up to the river wherever they can. And then in the last 24 hours, 2 airstrikes way in the west of the country on airfields. That's never happened before, and that looks like strikes designed to wear down the Ukrainian Air Force. And finally, the expectation that the Russians will assault Odessa to complete the isolation of Ukraine from the Black Sea.